And all right, this is my interview portion of the Cotillion Beautillion, and I definitely want to talk to Miss Keisha Yates right here. There she is. So my first question, Keisha, is when was the Cotillion Beautillion first originated? Like, what's its like origins?
The Cotillion Beautillion, the first one we had was in 1985. With how many debutantes did we have?
Don't worry about how many, I don't know.
We don't remember how many we had. It was derived from the idea of Mrs. Carolyn Brown, who was the secretary for the group at that time, the Scholarship Fund. And she said it would be a good idea for us to start doing cultural things for our young people so they can be exposed to other things besides what they hear on television and what's out on the streets. At that time, Mrs. Carolyn Love, who was still our First Lady, she was the coordinator for the Cotillion, and she was able to bring the idea to fruition.
Good. Second question for you is it's something I was always curious about. What's the hardest thing about putting the Cotillion Beautillion together?
Finding individuals who are committed to putting all the hard work into making the Cotillion the best Cotillion that there is. And I don't necessarily mean the committee, I mean young people. These days, young people are not as committed to things as they used to be. However, I can say that this group has been committed. We've actually had young men who have showed up for rehearsal more so than the young ladies. And you find that to be very unusual. However, this year our young men have actually stood up and done their part. So I want to commend them this year for doing that. And our young ladies, they've been committed as well. They come out, they ask the questions, they do their dances, they do what they're supposed to do. And there have been times we've had some individuals who've been replaced up to the last minute. So sometimes that's the hardest. The young people who are being presented have a very hard time finding somebody who wants to escort them, who's just as committed to the Cotillion as they are.
Okay. Lastly, you got any acknowledgments? Anybody that helped you out in particular that you want to give a shout out to or anything like that? Or
I would first like to thank God for allowing me to do this again. I would like to thank the Scholarship Fund Committee for allowing me to be the coordinator and trusting me to make this Cotillion Beautillion the best. I would like to send a shout out to my committee, Mrs. Joanna Dury, Mrs. Lalani Howe, Mr. Adrian Dury, Mrs. Dora Ingram, who did all the write-ups in the souvenir book, and last but not least, my mom, Mrs. Lottie Yates, who does all the money in the treasury, for the treasurer, and Mrs. McKeever, who does all of our decorations. I can't leave anybody out, so I might as well just list the whole entire group. But those are the individuals who come. Geraldine Hudson has shown up. She's given her support in rehearsal. She does her support in making sure that things are done. She does a lot of our leg work. So I want to thank all of them. And I just want to thank the participants and the parents. I want to thank the parents for being parents and raising their children to be bright, intelligent, respectful young women and men. And then I would also like to thank our parents who stood in for some of our individuals who needed a parent to step in. Reverend and Mrs. Mosley, Miss Tanya Dury, and Mr. Daniel Talbert. Thank you.
all right, thanks a lot.
Oh, and I'm sorry. And Reverend Love, we want to thank you for all the support that you have given us in terms of allowing us to use the fellowship hall to rehearse, in terms of just everything you've done, giving us shout outs in church. We thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, thank you.